All right, good morning. Welcome to the Multifamily NOFA Pre-Application Conference. So today, just a couple of housekeeping things. First off, just make sure that your mic stays muted. There will be an opportunity for a question and answer session. If you could just hold your questions until the end. Or you can also pop them in the chat as well, and then we will answer them all at the end of the session. The other thing to note is this is being recorded and it will be posted to the Housing and Community Development website, as well as the slides will also be there. So if you miss anything, you can always rewatch the conference and you can read through the questions, because those will also be the questions and answers that we go through today will also be posted on the website as well. So there'll be lots of opportunities to access this information after today. So the way things are going to go today is I am Lindsay Broom. I'm a staff analyst here at the housing department. What I do is manage the NOFA process. So you can think of me as your kind of go-to person for all questions you have with the application process as you're going through developing that, as well as any questions you may have for the program area, which would be multifamily in this situation. So instead of contacting them directly, the preference is for you to email me, and then I will get with them and provide you that response. Any question that you ask will be the answer and the question will be provided in a letter of clarification to all of the participants. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started because we do have a lot of information. All right, so this just provides an overview of what we're going to talk about you today. We'll talk about the NOFA itself, what the priorities are, the scope, the criteria, as well as talk about all the compliance requirements, which if you've worked with us before, you know there's a lot of compliance requirements. So that will be a bulk of what we discuss today, but we'll also discuss the specifics of the NOFA. All right, so this is approximately $20 million of home funding. There could be other funding sources if available, but that's going to be the 20 million will be the maximum amount that we'll be distributing. And the NOFA was issued on Monday, April 8th. Today we're having the conference. So you need to submit any questions that you may have about the application process, about the NOFA. Anything that comes up after today will need to be submitted by 5 p.m. on April 18th. And then the actual NOFA itself is due by 3 p.m. on April 26th. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Ryan to talk about the multifamily NOFA overview. And Ryan, just whenever you need me to change slides, just let me know. All
right, next, there you go. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Bibbs. I'm with I manage the multifamily division team here at the Housing Community Development Department. The next slide here, we'll be discussing general loan terms. There'll be 1% interest annually subject to cash flow. This will be a non-amortized loan payable at maturity and subordinated to senior debt. The repayment, if there's any repayment obligations in the event of a sale or refinance, there will be repayment obligations back to the city. I think we're looking at 50% of net proceeds right now. Affordability land use restriction agreement, a minimum of 20 years. There may be some that will do at 40. I think right now we're thinking that rehab at 20, new construction at 40 years, lower term. And the city lure will be senior to all other liens. Next slide, please. This is a list of our eligible activities: new construction, rehabs, demolition, permanent supportive housing. Soft costs will be a case-by-case case scenario, we would mainly like to stick towards acquisition and hard costs, but soft cost is not out of the question. It'll be something we'll need to review, and again, it'll be a case by case scenario. Next slide. These are threshold items that we'll be reviewing. Lindsay Group will review once the applications arrive. We are prioritizing 9% tax credit awards, 2023 or prior. We're also looking at 4% tax credit awards, bond reservation, current and active would be ideal. Located in the city limits, census tract not to exceed 25%, poverty rate for census tract not to exceed 25%. Way to mitigate that is if it's located in a concerted revitalization area. The TERS, complete communities are examples of CRAs. We would like for you to be in good standings with the city. If you've worked with the city before, you've done a great job and executed well, would be good for us to see. Minimum units that we're looking at is 64 units. Maximum request is 3 million. Minimum is 1.5 million. You see the application fee there. We do not want you to be debarred or suspended and not located in the 100-year floodplain. This is our scoring criteria. It all equals up to 100 points. You got different sections here. You got your organizational experience. We would like to see that people on your team, what they've done before, if they've done affordable housing, how many affordable housing deals they've done before. If they've worked with the city before, that would be great to know what kind of funding they've used before working with the city. Site location, if it's close to local transit, good performing schools. If it's in a CRA, this is all information we would like for you guys to forward to us so we can review. Project information, project readiness. We're looking for deals that can get closed fairly quickly. Get closed within 6 months. 6 months will be preferable, but if it's within 12 months, we could work with that too. But we would like to see a timeline tracking how quickly you can get site control and to get closed. Definitely sources and uses there. Complete sources and uses is required. Local support would be great. If you're the project where your project is located, civic organizations have made some good comments and you want to send letters in about local leaders in that area and civic organization on who's in favor, that would be great to see also. Quality on-site educational programming, I'm still under project information. That would be, if you're doing after school program or if you're doing a pre-K, that would be great to know about, to get some points there. Financial analysis. We want to know price per unit, total development cost price per, at your total development cost, how much is that price per unit? We'd like to kind of track that information. Debt coverage ratio on your pro forma. I think we have in there minimum 1.15 to 1.50 or 1.4. We'd like to look at that, but there's different points you can get if it's 1.15 or in the range of 1.15 to 1.25. So definitely take a look at that. Next slide.
All right, next we have Mike Forenza with the Development of Standards and Accessibility. Mike, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone. For those who have never worked with us before on projects, as well as those who have, you could tell that you'll know that this part of the development is costly. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Funding, HUD funding requires accessibility standards. These standards are not negotiable. I hear people ask me if they could be grandfathered in The answer is no. Oh, please back up one. There you go. Thank you. The standards are not negotiable in any way. They are pretty well they're listed. You can find them. The standard that we're going to be using is the 2010 ADA with the 11 HUD exceptions. You'll also be using fair housing. If you're new to federal funding, what you'll need to do is get with your architect. Make sure that they're kind of knowledgeable of the standards. They will always tell you that they are, but really look into it to see if they really understand the standards, because these standards could cost you time as well as a lot of money, because getting them wrong just creates costs all the way through the project. So please check these standards, check your plans, make sure that you meet them, and that way your cost will be in there, so you know the cost. Next slide. As Ryan said, we do require some energy as well as the city of Houston code compliance. They require some too. So these are your areas or levels that you could do to meet requirements. I will just on another kind of a outside bit of information. It's been in the news that AC units, your HVAC systems, the Freon used is going to change. If you bid something today with the old Freon, then you start working on it in 6 months or a year, you'll be using the new Freon, and there'll be a change in cost. So please, as you start to put your plans together, make sure that your HVAC systems will meet the new Freon, and that way your cost will be correct. And that's it for me. Thank y'all.
And this is just an overview of all the compliance pieces that we will go over and that may impact your project. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Melissa for the environmental requirements.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa Lahi, and I'm the Environmental Administration Manager for HCD. The next few slides will provide a brief overview of environmental compliance requirements for these projects. So next slide, please. So when is environmental compliance required under 24 CFR Part 58? Completion of an environmental review is required for projects with a federal nexus. So this means that projects that receive some form of federal funding or assistance. And this is commonly referred to as the point at which a project becomes quote unquote federal. And for these projects, it's usually at the time that an application for federal funding has been sent for consideration. Some things to note: there is no funding threshold, meaning that federal funding received could be anywhere from $1 to $1 million, and a review would still be required. Federal funds may constitute the entire project budget or only part of the project budget. And federal funds may be proposed for only one phase of a multi-phase project, but an environmental review would still be required for the entire multi-phase project. Next slide, please. Some requirements that we do have. The first is that we require a current ASTM compliant phase 1 environmental site assessment. It should not be older than 6 months at the time of public notice for the project. So this will be some time in the future. This is especially important when the project site has not yet been acquired. Generally, a phase 1 environmental site assessment is required regardless of if a project is federal, even when you are acquiring a property. So this is something that we also like to require because HUD really likes these things. Once a project becomes federal, it is important to note that HUD and non-HUD funds cannot be committed to any activity until environmental clearance, usually in the form of an authority to use grant funds, has been achieved. There are a few exceptions to this, like for administrative work, environmental testing, or other non-physical work. However, we suggest familiarizing yourself with 24 CFR 58.22 to avoid choice limiting actions that may hinder the ability to receive federal funds. Acquisition of land or construction activities are considered choice limiting. So once your project goes federal, you cannot do those activities until you receive environmental clearance. HUD does recognize that the acquisition of land is a complex process, and it does allow for an option agreement on a proposed site. So that is something to note. If the environmental review identifies mitigation conditions or requirements, these conditions must be followed in order for a property or a project to remain eligible for federal funding. Documentation should be forwarded to the environmental team with the so that we can include it with the environmental review record. Although every federally funded project requires environmental review, not every project will receive an AUGF or an authority to use grant funds. This is only received from HUD when the project scope meets the criteria for an environmental assessment, which most of these projects probably will. Minor projects may not meet this threshold, and they may receive clearance in-house, so we can complete it in-house. However, it is critical that the full scope of the project is considered in an environmental review, regardless of what percentage or what portions of the project are completed with federal funds. This is known as project aggregation, and it is required by HUD. Activities cannot be partitioned. This is our environmental team contact information. We are always here to help. The easiest way to reach us is by email. We have multiple people monitoring our group email address. It's hcdenvironmental@houstontx.gov.
Thank you, Melissa. Now we have Michelle presenting the Davis-Bacon information.
Hi, good morning. This is Laura Serrano. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of Michelle. She's not available right now, and we'll have our cameras off here to reduce any issues with our network. So good morning, and thank you for joining us today. So with regards to Davis-Bacon, as you can see, it has a couple of various regulations on the bottom. It is 24 CFR parts 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 9. And that sometimes includes a little bit of part 1, some of 2, 3, and all of 5, and some of 7 and 9. Next slide. So for this particular audience, we want to make sure that your takeaways are here, and understanding when you're going to be engaging in solicitation with your general contractor, and any costs that it may incur. So as a general rule, here, the purpose is that the Davis-Bacon and related acts that we call DEBRA, it protects the communities and workers from non-local contractors underbidding local wage levels. The acts is Davis-Bacon, Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, the Copeland Anti-Kickback Act, and the Fair Labor Standards Act. That's what includes it in that acronym of Davis-Bacon and related acts. It's going to apply to any contract at $2,000, and that means the general contract at $2,000 or more. All the requirements will then pass down to all the lower level subs. And that would be activities of alteration, repairs, decorating. So any construction related items that will mean demolition and new construction, and any work incidental to that project. So if there's some off-site work across the street to tap into some sewer lines, water lines, things of that nature, that is also part of the project. So things to consider are the cost. Obviously, it's going to be the labor cost. There are set rates issued by Department of Labor for various trades throughout the United States, and it's on a per county basis. So they are the ones to set those rates. And then, of course, you have an administrative oversight cost. Someone needs to carry out and oversee the fact that the general contractor is doing what they're supposed to do and all their lower level subcontractors. So that would be a cost that the general contractor will also have to consider to manage all the subs. Next slide. It's important to disseminate this information. After many, many years, Department of Labor has updated the regulation and it's considered the final rule. So the biggest takeaway for you here today is going to be that we do still obviously lock in the prevailing wages based on competitive procurement. If you do decide to do competitive procurement, you have 90 days to enter into an agreement with that general contractor, and we can lock those rates in during that solicitation process. If you go past the 90 days, which it happens when it's not a problem, or you decide not to do a competitive procurement, then we lock in the rates based on the contract date. With that said, it's important the difference now with the Department of Labor's rules is that if there's going to be a substantial change to the existing contract, or you're going to add more time to the existing contract, then we're required to revisit those rates that we initially locked in and have to reissue new rates at the latest and greatest effective date. So please take that into consideration. Next slide. Under Deborah, it is mandatory that the Federal Labor Standards provision, we call it the HUD 4010 form. It's 10 pages. It must be included in our loan agreement and all contract agreements. That would include the general contract agreement and all lower level contracts under that agreement. In addition to that, the general wage determination document, which is commonly known as the prevailing wage rates, those also have to be included in the general contract agreement and all lower level subcontractor agreements. Mandatory meetings that we have, if there's a competitive procurement going on, we need to be part of the pre-bid meeting in order to disseminate the same information to be fair to all the potential bidders of all the requirements associated with adhering to Davis-Bacon and the prevailing wage rates. The next meeting that is mandatory is a pre-construction meeting with your general contractor, and always subcontractors are encouraged and invited to attend to recap and remind everyone of those requirements. And then we like to have an onboarding meeting right before construction starts, a one-on-one between the Davis-Bacon staff and that general contractor and or their consultant or contract administrator to go over the details, to inform them of how to use our electronic software system, provide some forms and details, hands-on training. Next slide. So a quick overview that we provide our general contractors is they're responsible to notify and pay the workers the prevailing wage, and they have to submit weekly certified payroll. We use the LCP tracker software system. It's free to everyone. We pay for that. They must submit all initial compliance documents prior to someone starting work at the job site. And any supporting documentation from timesheets, proof of payment, payroll authorization documentation, fringe benefits, apprenticeship programs, etc., must be submitted through the LCP tracker as well on a very timely basis. Next slide. So this is our group contact information. We have a dedicated email account, which is hcddbra@houstontx.gov. You could also find a landing page on our department's website. And if you need to reach any of us here, that is our main landline, and they'll be connecting you to our hotline as needed.
All right, next we're going to discuss URA. We have Crystal. Are you on the call, Crystal?
I'm here.
All right.
Alrighty, hello all. I am Crystal Scruggs, a Management Analyst 3 with the City of Houston. I will be covering the URA section of this presentation, also known as the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Act. Next slide. Okay, the URA thresholds are as follows. There is no monetary threshold for relocation assistance. URA applies to the project independent of how federal funds are used for the project if the project consists of acquisition with a transfer of title, rehabilitation, new construction, and demolition/conversion. All of these activities will trigger URA. Next slide. Okay, the first phase in the URA process is the application. This is considered the preliminary phase. The NOFA application is submitted along with any prerequisites, URA, and acquisition documents. The second phase is City Council approval, and the last phase is the URA process. In the URA process is monitoring. And in this phase, the project relocation starts and submission of tenant files is required, and the URA monitoring review is conducted. Next slide. If the project will consist of relocation, whether residential or non-residential, the following documents will need to be included in your proposal application. For acquisition, you will need to submit the URA assurance letter, a notice to seller, a seller occupancy certification, and the initial title commitment. If relocation is applicable, then you must submit a relocation plan, a relocation budget, initial rent roll, and the template that will serve as the general information notice, also known as the GIN. Next slide. The developer will need to ensure the relocation administrator is knowledgeable and understands URA, the HUD-Way, and the HUD Handbook 1378. Both are great resources on the process of relocation and provides basic information on the important topics such as budgeting and property acquisition. Next slide. The general information notice should be issued within 30 to 45 days of your proposal being submitted to the city. This notice serves as a notification that you have applied for city funds and changes may be in the works. It is imperative that you submit the proposal application that also includes a monthly rent roll and a tenant status report. This informs the city of all tenants living on the property that may be eligible for relocation assistance. Please do not relocate any tenants until the city has approved your project. If your project consists of demolition or converting a lower income dwelling for one replacement is triggered, and these units must be replaced with another lower income dwelling. Next slide. For more information on URA, such as what triggers URA and access required forms when URA is applicable to your project, or general overview, please visit HoustonTX.gov/housing/amenities. Thank you for your time. This concludes my presentation on URA.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lakeisha Tate, the Administration Manager with the Housing Community Development Contract Compliance Section. I will be providing the City of Houston Minority Women Small Business Enterprise, HUD Section 3, and the City of Houston Pay or Play compliance requirements for the home multifamily NOFA presentation. Minority Women Small Business Enterprise, known as MWSBE program requirements, is governed by 2 CFR 85.36 with the City of Houston Chapter 15 Ordinance, Part 5. And the purpose of the MWSBE program is to promote growth and success. MWBE program compliance requirements for the home multifamily NOFA is advertised with a 38% MWBE goal, which to break down is 30% minority business enterprise and an 8% women business enterprise. MBE and WBE goals are separate goals that must be met individually. Only 4% SBE can be used to meet either the MBE and or WBE, but both cannot get 4% each. MWBE primes are allowed to meet advertised goals by self-performing up to 50% of the total contract goals. MWBE primes will have the option to choose which goal they would like to receive credit on for the construction project, the MBE or the WBE goal. Once the MWBE prime has selected the goal of the participation, then the MWBE prime participation will be capped at the proposed percentage or the approved goal, whichever one is lower. The prime contractor shall make good faith efforts to award subcontracts or supply agreements to MWSBEs to achieve the goal requirements. Only firms certified through the City of Houston Office of Business Opportunity can be used to meet the MBE goal requirements. For more information about the City of Houston MWSBE certification process and to review the online certified directory, you can visit www.houston.mwdbe.com. Next slide, please. Section 3 program requirements are governed by 24 CFR Part 75. The Section 3 program requires that recipients of certain HUD financial assistance to the greatest extent possible provide training, employment, contracting, and other economic opportunities to low and very low persons. Next slide. Any contractor with a contract of more than $100,000 for housing construction, rehabilitation, or public construction are required to meet numerical goal requirements. Compliance with goal requirements can only be achieved by subcontracting with certified Section 3 business concerns and employing Section 3 workers. If new contracting or employment opportunities shall arise, contractors are required to meet the following: 10% hard cost goal. That means 10% hard cost. That means your total direct construction budget of your contract should be awarded to certified Section 3 business concerns. A 3% soft cost. So if you have a soft cost budget that requires professional services that are non-construction related activities, then 3% of your total soft cost budget must be awarded to certified Section 3 business concerns. We also have a 30% new employment opportunities that must be directed to Section 3 workers. We do not expect you to actively seek out or create new opportunities, but if any new employment opportunities shall arise, they should be directed to Section 3 workers. We have a new 25% Section 3 worker benchmark goal. That means 25% or more of the total labor hours worked should be performed by Section 3 workers, with at least 5% being performed by target Section 3 workers. The next 3 slides, I will provide information on what qualifies you as a Section 3 business concern, a Section 3 worker, and a target worker. Next slide, please. To qualify you as a Section 3 business concern, you must meet one of these categories. 51% or more of the business is owned and controlled by low and very low income persons who meet annual income limits provided by HUD. Second category, over 75% of the labor hours performed for businesses over the prior 3 months period are performed by Section 3 workers. A business at least 51% owned and controlled by current public housing residents or residents who are currently living in Section 8 assisting housing. Next slide. A Section 3 worker is any worker who currently fits or when hired within the past 5 years fit at least one of these categories. A worker's income from the previous or current calendar year is below the income limit established by HUD. That Section 3 worker could be possibly employed by a Section 3 business, or that worker serves as a youth bill participant, meaning a youth bill participant is currently a common-based pre-apprentice program that provides job training and educational opportunities for at-risk youth ages between 16 and 24 who has previously dropped out of high school. Next slide. A Section 3 target worker for housing community development financial assistance projects is a Section 3 worker who is employed by a Section 3 business concern or who currently fits when hired fits at least one of the categories as documented for the last 5 years. So that means one of the categories is you're living within the service area of the neighborhood of the project as defined in 20 CFR 75.5, which that is a 1 mile radius, or you are a youth build participant. Next slide, please. To receive credit towards your numerical goal requirements, businesses and workers must be certified through the City of Houston Housing and Community Development Department. The certification process takes 5 to 7 business days. Once all of your documents are submitted, you complete an online business application at the website on the City of Houston Housing Community Development website page. A Section 3 worker application can be submitted through our HCD contract compliance email, or you can complete a digital application at the website provided. For more information regarding the Section 3 business concern, the Section 3 worker, the Section 3 target worker, you can always visit the HoustonTX.gov/housing/section3.html website for further information. Next slide, please. Last but not least, we have the Pay or Play program requirements. The City of Houston Pay or Play program, which is governed by the Executive Order 1 through 7. The purpose of the City of Houston program is to require certain contractors to provide certain employees a minimum level of healthcare benefits or contribute a designated amount to be used to offset the cost of providing healthcare to uninsured people in the Houston and Harris County area. Next slide. Professional services, construction, and service type contracts valued at $100,000 for the contract and $200,000 for the sub. This is including contingencies, amendments, supplemental terms, and change orders are applicable to Pay or Play program requirements. Additionally, Pay or Play program does not apply to any contract in which the primary purpose, which is 51% or more, is the procurement of purchase of property, leases, goods, supplies, and or equipment. Furthermore, contractors that utilize self-employment, owner-operators, individuals to complete like truck drivers, day laborers, 1099 workers, are exempt from the City of Houston Pay or Play program. Next slide, please. If a POP covered contractor elects the play option, which they will contribute $1 per covered employee per regular hour for work performed under the contract with the city. Covered employees are those who are over the age of 18, work at least 30 hours per week with any amount of time worked on the covered city contract or subcontract. The funds are deposited into a contract responsibility fund that is used to offset costs for providing health care to uninsured people in the Houston and Harris County area. Unfortunately, the employees of the POP covered contractors will not receive the $1 per regular hour for work performed under the contract with the city. It goes into the contractor responsibility fund. Next slide, please. If the POP covered contractor elects the play option, that means this contractor will provide healthcare benefits to covered employees, which covered employees are over the age of 18, work at least 30 hours or any amount of time on a city contract. Those healthcare benefits must meet or exceed the following standards. The employee will contribute no less than 75% per covered employee per month toward the total premium cost, and that's single healthcare coverage only. The employee contribution, if any amount, will be no greater than 25% of the monthly premium costs. So HCD provides POP-related health information regarding the Pay or Play forms and all Pay or Play related updates through the website. You can visit www.houstontx.gov/OBO/POPforms.html. This concludes the contract compliance portion as it relates to HUD Section 3 and the City of Houston Minority Women Small Business Enterprise and the Pay or Play program requirements. Thank you for your time, and we're excited about the opportunity to collaborate with you.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Next, we have complaints and appeals by Chris Robinson. Chris, are you on the call?
Hi, this is Eva. I'm going to be subbing for Chris. So, hello, my name is Eva Alcala. I'm here representing the complaints and appeals team, stepping in for Chris Robinson. I'm just providing an overview of the complaints and appeals activities applicable to this NOFA. We accept complaints and appeals from the public, and specifically, we accept complaints having to do with HCD operations and appeals having to after you've had a determination from HCD. And common types of complaints we receive are processing time, status updates, program requirements. Common types of appeals we receive are for denial of services, denial of resolution, or non-receipt of an award. The estimated time for a response for a complaint is 15 days, and the estimated time for a response for an appeal is 30 to 45 days. Next slide, please. Who can file a complaint or an appeal? A complaint can be filed by any member of the public, and also program participants. Program participants include your applicants, developers, contractors, agencies, bidders, vendors, and subrecipients. Appeals can only be filed by a person who's already participating in the program. So if you've already applied to something, then you can appeal once you've received a determination. The basic information that we need to file a complaint or an appeal would be the full name of the person, the address, a way that we can get in contact with them, the specific name of the project, the NOFA RFP, and then the reason for this complaint or the reason for this appeal. There are 3 basic types of appeals, and these are the 3 basic types. The tier 1 would be just reviewed by the program area. The tier 2 would be reviewed by our independent appeals review committee. And tier 3 would be our state they're called state escalated. And those are only applicable to DR 17 funded programs. The important timelines to remember are that the appellant must file their appeal in writing within 30 days of their award determination. And then also we acknowledge that we will acknowledge the receipt of that within 1 business day. The appellant then has 5 days to submit supporting documentation if they haven't already. And then we will render a response within 45 days for NOFAs, because that does have to take a little bit longer. And for more information on the appeals, you could go to the houstontx.gov/housing/appeals. And our next slide is our contact information. We have our hotline number here, which was recently updated to 832-394-6200 extension 2. Our general hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We have our email address here, which is hcd.complaintsappeal@houstontx.gov. And then you could also, the reason why we're letting you know our hours of operation is because you could drop them off in person or by mail. And this is our address listed here, 2100 Travis, 9th floor. And that's only for the complaints that you could submit. I mean, that you can call in on the hotline. We could take those over the phone. And that's what I have for complaints and appeals. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. All right, so we're running a little short on time. So, and this is probably one of the things you're really wanting to know is how do we access the NOFA and then how do we submit it? So that's what I'm going to take you through right now. So on the City of Houston Housing website, under funding and contract opportunities, you will see a little button that says Notice of Funding Availability. You click on that, and that is going to bring up our featured NOFA. Right now, we only have 1 featured NOFA, so that's all you'll see. But if we have one, let's say in the next week or so, another one, there'll be multiple featured NOFAs. So just make sure you're going to the correct one. This is the Multifamily Home Investment Partnership NOFA. And you can see like, you know, a blurb about the NOFA itself, and then you'll see a button that says View NOFA. That will take you to the actual PDF of the NOFA. Let me see if I click. Yeah, you click on that and it brings up the NOFA. And also on this screen, you'll also see a link here to the pre-application conference for today. We'll probably take that down after today. And at the bottom of the page, you will be able to see that a PDF of the slides and then a link to a recording of this call, all on the same page. But we'll do that after this call and after we finish with the recording. Also on this page, you'll see NOFA documents down here. This view, when you click on that, it's going to pop open a screen that will show you all the documents that need to be downloaded and completed as part of this application process. There are more things that need to be completed, but these are the standardized forms that you'll need to get from us to complete and sign to include in your application. The most important of which would be this application workbook, which will walk you through the application, like everything that's required. That's where the list of required items is. So that would, for me, that would be my first download, is downloading the application workbook and then moving through that workbook. If you see a form that needs to be completed, you would go back to this website and download that form. Then something that might be different since the last time you submitted an application, if you have previously, is that now we're no longer accepting paper applications. So previously you would have to print everything out, put it in a big binder, and bring it down to the office building. Now we're using a submission portal where you will submit all your documents. I will go through that as well. So this link, this NOFA document portal, is located inside the NOFA PDF. So when you look at the NOFA, there will be a section that says application process or something along those lines, and there will be a link to this NOFA document portal. When you go into the portal, this is a screenshot of what it'll look like. The first question is, are documents for a NOFA submission? If yes, enter solicitation number below. You will click yes, this is a NOFA. And then down under project information, it says, please enter project or solicitation number. Now this is very important because we will not receive your application unless you do this correctly. So you click yes, and then under project or solicitation number, you're going to enter N as in Nancy 040824, which is the solicitation number for this NOFA. No dash. I know like in the printed NOFA, it has a dash, but when you're putting it in the system, no dash. N 040824. Once you put that information in that box, some of these other fields will populate. NOFA title will populate, NOFA status, and then at the bottom of the page, you will see all of the required fields for documents. I don't have a screenshot of that because our IT side is still working on creating the fields for this specific NOFA. But at the as you scroll down this submission portal, it will have each individual document that's required and then an option for you to upload that document. Some things that I want to say that are important about this portal that I see happening. It times out, which can be super frustrating because it also does not save your application. So say you're working, you have a few things uploaded and you're like, oh, I need this other thing. Let me go get it. And you're gone. Let's say you get sidetracked and you're gone an hour. When you come back, the portal will have closed and everything you've done thus far will have been lost. I do realize this is incredibly frustrating. So what my suggestion is to, on your hard drive, get all the documents that you need, that you know that you're going to need to submit, have them all ready, and then at one go, sit down and upload each one. Because as long as you're active on the computer, it won't time out. But if you walk away, if you're not active, then yes, it will time out. I've heard that it's around 20 to 30 minutes, but personally, I wouldn't want to test it out. I would just sit there and do all your documents at once. There will be two sections, one for the threshold requirements and one for the other required documents. So the threshold requirements are things that you must have in order for your application to even move forward into me reviewing the other documents. So first I'll look at your threshold. I'll make sure that you meet the threshold and that you have the documentation provided. And then I'll move on to making sure all the other documents that we need to do underwriting, to do evaluation, all those things are there. But those threshold requirements are probably the most important first step, is making sure that they are there. One of those threshold requirements is a $1,500 application fee. At this time, we do not have a way of doing that electronically. So unfortunately, that will have to be hand delivered to 2100 Travis, the 9th floor reception, by April 26th at 3 p.m. Once you've done that, you can just write up a little, paragraph that I've delivered the check, have it signed by your CEO, and then upload that into the system under threshold requirement application fee. And then I will manually go down, make sure the check is there, and then mark you off as yes, they've met that threshold requirement. So if you haven't already gathered, I will be the person who will be reviewing the applications, making sure they're complete, reaching out to you if there is something missing. Typically, we allow a 3 business day cure period. So if I do an initial look and I say, okay, they've forgotten this one form, I will reach out to you and give you 3 business days to complete that. I will say this is all for things that are non-material. So, you know, a forgotten form, something that you forgot to sign. If it's something like your scope wasn't very good, like that's a material thing. That's something that would, is not something that you can just add. That's something that has to be like changed. So it's not like a quality-based thing. It's something that just is forgotten within the application that we allow you to change or to add or amend. Yeah, that is a lot of information. So I do hope that you go back and re-listen to this particular part when you're going to submit your application. And as you're doing that, this email address right here, HCD_NOFA@HoustonTX.gov, that goes to me and my direct supervisor, Jamila Glover. So we both man that one. If one of us is out, somebody will always be checking that email. That does typically work better. You can also email me directly, but that email is, you have 2 people looking at it. So if I'm out for some reason, Jamila will be looking at that email. And as you know, there's a deadline for your questions, which is April 18th. So just make sure that you submit questions before that. I will say though, if you have a question related to, I'm having trouble uploading these documents, and it's not about like the actual application, like it's about like a technical issue, you can contact me beyond the 18th. You can contact me on the 26th, and I will help you get that information correctly in the system, because we are here to help you and get your application together and in the system, and we want everybody to have the best shot. So if you have problems, please reach out to me. One other thing is the no contact period. That is that, so beginning now, any applicant is not allowed to reach out to any member of the city in an attempt to sway the results. This includes, and this does happen, this includes, you really want the award, you know, a council person, you email the council person and say, hey, look, I just submitted my application. Like, that is not allowed. After this point, you should be only reaching out to the NOFA administrator, which would be me or Jamila Glover. And you shouldn't be reaching out to any other city member in an attempt to sway the results. If you have a question about something else, about, say you have another contract with someone else in the city, that's fine. This only pertains if you're trying to persuade or an attempt to persuade the outcome of the award. However, this does not prevent any applicant from making public statements to the City Council convened for a regularly scheduled session after the initial selection has been made and placed on the City Council agenda, or to a City Council committee convened to discuss a recommendation regarding the application. So that's after an official selection has been made. All right, so we're going to open it up for questions. Does anyone have one? Ruben?
Yeah, just wondering, one of the requirements is that the project be located in the city limit, but does ETJ count?
Ryan or Juanita, do you want to take that?
The development must be within the city limits.
Okay, so ETJ sites are not available. All right, good deal. Thank you.
There were some questions in the chat. Yes, the slide will be available in PDF. Yes, and it will be available in a video as well. That will be on the funding, the HCD funding website under NOFA. I think this is for environmental. Are they still on the call? How long does it take for HUD to issue the OG typically?
Yes, this is Melissa. The AUGF, the timeline to achieve that varies. However, there are required public notice periods, so it can take up to 6 months to go through the entire environmental review process. So the sooner that you have all of your information together, the better.
Okay, there's another question. When are awards made by HCD? That varies depending on which NOFA we're talking about. I think, and Ryan or Juanita can correct me, I think for this particular NOFA, we're hoping to get the awards made or at least recommended sometime by June. Is that correct?
Are all the funds deposited all at once or in project phases?
It's in project phases. We reimbursed. So after you have paid your GC, we'll ask you to submit a draw, and we'll have other documentation that we want that draw to have, and then you submit that to us. It'll go through review from us, the multifamily division. It will go through review through the compliance department, URA. Once everyone has reviewed in other departments and we get a signature from everyone to move the draw forward, it goes through to our finance division and then to the controller to wire.
Okay, and a part of that draw process there with certain draw schedules with other entities, there's an inspection point for each draw process. Is an inspection point from the city is included in that process?
Yes, it is. We also include third-party construction reports that analyze the draw. There'll be a visit out to the site to review what stage the construction is in, percent complete. So that report goes into the actual draw itself.
While we're waiting, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I have a
Go ahead,
question.
Thomas.
I think Ryan had touched on it very early on in the presentation. In regards to a sale, could you kind of maybe dive a little bit more? I think you said if the property sells throughout the process, there's an abatement back to the city of about 50% of net proceeds. Was that accurate?
That normally happens, if it's down the road after the project has closed, and all this has to go through. If you close and things are going fine and everything is completed, and down the road, a few years down the road, you want to do something different with structure, that all has to come through legal. So our legal has to review it with your legal, but just in general, a sale or refinance, typically your agreement is going to say if there's any net proceeds coming back to you, the city needs to share in that.
While we're waiting on to see if any other questions, I just want to show you this website, this HoustonTX.gov housing/funding NOFA. So at the bottom of the screen, there's a table here for all NOFAs. So here under additional resources, there will be a link to the PDF of the NOFA slides and also a link to the pre-application conference recording. So that's where it will be. And then again, this is where you view the NOFA, and over here where it says HCD document submission portal. This is where the let me just show you with a different one so you can see what it looks like. At the bottom of the screen, it'll show you each individual documentation that needs to be submitted. So that's what it looks like. All right, did anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, if anything comes up after you've had some time to think about it, give us a email or a call, either the HCD_NOFA@HoustonTX.gov, or my personal email is Lindsay, LINSI.broom, BROOM, @HoustonTX.gov. One question is the list of attendees here today available to the public? No, we don't typically share the list of attendees. But if you're looking to, this is always available, like if you're looking to partner, you can put your information here in the chat and other people will be able to see it. And I will also include that in the letter of clarification, which is a letter that will also publish on the website of all the questions that were asked. So if you put your information here, I will share that in that letter of clarification. So I'll leave the chat open for a little bit longer if anybody wants to put their information there. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dwayne, did you have a question?
Yes, and thank you very much for the acknowledgement. Again, on one of the slides, I was mentioning minimum of $1.5 million request is the requested amount, and a minimum of 64 units. These 64 units, what are some qualification of units that are acceptable in this project here?
Well, they're all gonna, I mean, it's a multifamily project, and right, the ceiling is 3 million. The floor is gonna be 1.5, and total, a minimum of 64 units, so 64 or more. And as you go through your application and you're filling your application out, they're going to be, some of the units are going to be restricted for affordable housing. So if you,
what is the percentage of that restriction? Are we talking about 10% of that, or 20 or 30?
it's a pro rata share. So if you have 100 units and you're requesting from the city 15% of the total development costs, then 15% of those units is going to be restricted to.
So whatever percentage of what you're requesting, that's the equal amount of percentage that have to be dedicated to affordable housing?
You're right, correct. So 15 units is going to be restricted, and that's going to be restricted to 60% to 80% AMI, and of that, 20 of that number, 20% is going to have to be restricted at 50% AMI. That's the home partnership regulatory rules.
Mm-hmm. And again, only multifamily, no single family structure, and we talk about multifamily.
Yeah, multifamily
apartments, or can it be duplex, or just kind of apartment type formats?
That's a good question. Multifamily, we've seen
duplex would actually count as that, like, you know, in certain terms.
What we have done is multifamily, of course, your general multifamily garden style or podium build, and then also we've done some cottage style, where it kind of looks like have you seen South Acres out on, I think it's on Sky? Yeah, kind of a cottage style that's actually rental, but it's kind of built on like a cottage style scenario. It's kind of what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
No problem. But send your, I would recommend send if you feel like this is close to all the things we've talked about and is close to what you're what you're wanting to do, send it in and let's take a look at it, and we can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely have all the information in email as well. That was the last question that I had while I actually have a live people on to answer directly to. So thank y'all for answering that question.
No problem.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Yeah, again, if anything comes up, just shoot me an email or call. I appreciate everyone being here.